How are you? I love your red wall, have to say.
Thanks.
I just, is it like being in the womb when you sleep at night?
Well, it's only behind me, so I don't really see it, because it's actually my bedroom. Yeah.
I painted my lounge wall red, and my friend said, "Oh, it's just like being back in the womb." That's why I asked the question. and you actually face it, because the main couch faces the window, and you look out.
Oh.
So the outdoors have a big red frame, which I kind of enjoy. But as you notice, there's a lot of color in this house. But I love color. How are you about color?
I like color, but I don't know. I've sort of, as I've got older, I just I don't know. I feel like I'm too submerged sometimes in things that I'm not really thinking about.
So are you starting to do the declutter thing as we do as we get older?
No, not really. But
oh, good.
No, but the one place where I really do try to do beautiful things with color is the covers of the books, Majaji books. So yeah, that's.
So can I bring you my book when it's ready?
Well, you can submit it. I can't promise.
I don't know if it's ever going to be ready, so I don't have to. There's no rush, so don't worry.
No. I mean, I'd love to see it, but I can't. It's a very difficult right at the moment. Well.
Don't even worry about it. Just pretend I never said that, okay? It's one of those it may one day happen things, and then it's one of those it may never happen things as well. Colleen, won't you please begin by telling us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? Where do you come from?
Okay, well, I live in Cape Town currently with my daughter, who's in matric this year, which has been a strange time, to say the least.
Yeah, hard time to be at school at the moment.
Yeah, I was born in Kimberley, but I don't know it at all because my parents moved. But I mean, I've lived in many places, Joburg, Grahamstown, Lesotho.
Oh, that's nice. Was it nice there?
Yeah.
Nice lifestyle.
Yes, I mean, we left Lesotho when I was 13 and we moved there when I was 4. We lived both in the mountains and in Maseru. So, I mean, it was a very sort of colonial lifestyle in a way, I guess. If I think about it from this vantage point now. Yeah, my father played polo. I mean, we weren't wealthy, but, somehow he had polo ponies and, we had like 4 servants.
That's a lot of servants, but that is quite colonial.
I mean, it was just, I don't know, very weird in retrospect. And there was a club that everybody went to,
Yeah, we had one of those in Mafeking, a rugby club, and everybody used to socky around the outside of the dance floor, and you have to duck when they come past. It was great fun in the in the early 90s.
Well, the club had all kinds of sport. There was polo, tennis. Trying to think what else.
Bowls. There must have been bowls.
But I mean, my parents played tennis and my dad played polo. But yeah, so I went to school in Lesotho and partly in Bloemfontein and then Parktown Girls in Joburg. I always wanted to be a writer, and I mean, I've written a lot, but I've put most of my energy into publishing other writers, especially in the last 13 years.
One of my favorite questions to ask authors or people I interview as a general is to tell me about their parents, but I'm going to skip that question with you because this talk is all about a parent, specifically. So, Majaji Books, you entered a male-dominated world, did you not, and opened your own publishing house?
I did. I mean, it was in retrospect, I feel like it was very much part of my madness. And when I thought about writing this book first, I thought I would weave the two things together. But that is a much more complicated task. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to write about Majaji at some point.
My
And I have
extended
written
madness.
Yeah, exactly. You know, publishing is such a difficult business, actually, and it's hard to make any money out of it. I mean, there's a joke that says, how do you make a small fortune out of publishing? And the punchline is you start with a large fortune. So, I mean, I didn't start with anything. I had a pension from working at the Centre for the Book, and I put my pension into starting with Jaji. And, you know, that was 13 years ago. And yeah, the rest is history for me.
13 years ago, that was the beginning of the ebook, wasn't it? That was taking
Yeah,
a hell of a
all
risk.
of these things like ebooks and blogs and the social media were just beginning around that time. I mean, blogs have been around for a little bit longer. So it was a good moment in a way to start, because there were lots of things that one could access to, you know, to do the work that wouldn't have been possible without those things.
Colleen, why did you feel it was necessary to write about your experience with your mom in the last 10 years of her life?
Also, I mean, when I started the book, I didn't, it was a blog, a secret blog. So it was visible to anyone who happened to come across it or who searched for some of the key words, but I didn't attach my name to it. And that was just so that I would feel comfortable writing about whatever I wanted to write about. And I suppose it was partly a way of dealing with the situation of taking on my mother and responsibility for caring for her, because I had enormous resistance in myself. And so writing about it somehow gave something back to me. And then after she died, I reread the whole blog, and I started to think that I had something there that could turn into a book. And so, you know, I started working with it and editing it, and yeah.
And here we have a book.
I mean, so I suppose what I felt was that it might be interesting for other people who have been through or are going through similar situations. I mean, everybody has a mother. Maybe, you know, there are different ways that people are related to their mother, as it were. I mean, some people are adopted, but they have an adopted mother. But, you know, everyone, more or less, everyone has a mother. Not everyone's mother was like my mother. And, you know, everybody has to consider how to care for your parents when they get older. So I felt like there were things that people could relate to, even if what I was writing about wasn't the same. It would still be something to think about, something to engage with.
Your relationship with your mom, was it a bad relationship the whole time? I mean, did you ever have a good relationship with her?
Well, the thing is, you know, as a child and as a young person, you don't know that, you know, this is your mom. You don't know that things could be different, that you could have had another experience. That's your only experience. So, I mean, I was quite close to my mother, especially in my teens. You know, I spoke to her about all kinds of things. But I mean, the thing is, my mother confided in me things that she shouldn't have been confiding, like about her marriage and problems with money and, you know, even sexual things. So, you know, but I didn't know at the time that was not okay, really. I just, you know, it was like, that's my mum, you know, this is how it is. But I mean, as I got older and reflected on it, and also, you know, I went into psychotherapy in my 20s, and I still actually do that, you know.
Everybody should be in therapy, in my humble opinion.
So, you know, then I started to understand more about who my mother was and, you know, what impact she'd had on my life.
It's very difficult growing up with a, you know, I'm very close to my mother. In fact, she's lived with me or on the same property as me since 1998. So we have a very, very close relationship. And my stepdad, who she married only a few years ago, has dementia. So it's very interesting, you know, reading your book and seeing what your mother was going through and what you were going through as a result of that, because not only one person suffers from dementia, the whole family suffers as a result. And you all have to learn and grow and know, well, you have to find boundaries for yourself. And I think that's what you managed to do quite well.
Well, yes. I mean, it was a process of finding those boundaries, and it was also bound up with a lot of guilt, you know, because I always felt guilty about that I wasn't doing enough. But I mean, I think as time went on, and with the help of my therapist, I did realize that I was doing what I could, what was possible for me to do. I mean, some people have asked me, like, did you ever consider having your mom on your property? Because I have got a cottage in the back. And that wasn't a possibility for me. I knew that my own mental health, my own well-being I couldn't manage, you know. And it wasn't just because of dementia, it was because of everything about her.
Well, my stepdad is still at home. They have a 24-hour carer for him, specifically. But I see what it does to my mother. I know that she cries every single day to see what her husband has become from what he was. So it's also very hard to live with up close and personal. So I think, you know, where your mom was is probably the best thing that, you know, could have happened. She was in a different space, and you can actually get to see, I don't know if this is how you feel about it, but you actually can get to see them as humans, you know, instead of this annoying thing that's permanently clamped to your side and driving you insane. There's that distance.
Yeah, I mean, I think because one has, you know, that complicated relationship with one's mother, no matter who you are and what kind of relationship it is, you know, you can have some objectivity in a sense. And also, I mean, in my case, I knew that you know, she was being cared for well and contained, and you know, in fact, her dementia got better after some years of living at Oasis, where she was, you know, in the high care centre. So, you know, she wasn't as repetitive, for example. I mean, I think that she was so familiar with her surroundings and felt so safe and contained, in a sense, that she, I mean, I suspect in her case, I don't know about anybody else, that dementia and anxiety are quite linked. So when the anxiety is contained, I think that repetition to some extent has got something to do with anxiety.
Did you feel like her drug dealer buying her cigarettes on that scale?
Yeah, I did. I mean, my mother, so at one point she was smoking 3 packs of 30s a day. I mean, I don't actually know how she managed. I also wrote in the book that I suspected she used the cigarettes as a kind of currency, possibly.
Like being in jail.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I've never been a smoker, so I had to supply my mother with cigarettes and Coke. She drank like 4 liters.
Liquid Coke, people, not snorting Coke, just by the way.
Yeah, well, she drank it. She drank Coke, Coca-Cola. And, you know, it was quite strange to buy this stuff in the quantities that I bought it, because I would have basically a month's supply of Coke and cigarettes delivered to her. For quite a while, I had to actually deliver the cigarettes myself, because you couldn't buy them online. And there's a whole thing about cigarettes because of minors, you know, them trying to prevent minors from smoking. So, yeah, I had to actually go and buy the cigarettes and then deliver them. But I mean, I used couriers. A friend who had a mum at one of the other buildings in the centre, once or twice she dropped cigarettes, but it was like a mission. All the time I had to think about how to get her cigarettes, you know. There were some things the centre wouldn't do, that, you know, they wouldn't, anything extra that she needed. I mean, so she got all her meals, they administered her medication, but there were certain things that I had to get for her, and cigarettes and Coke were those things.
They didn't want to be a drug dealer. And as Charm says one would definitely feel like a drug dealer today under a lockdown ban. I mean, could you imagine trying to source cigarettes in this, in this pandemic stage?
Yeah, I'm very grateful that I don't have to try and get contraband cigarettes, and it would be a nightmare. When I first started caring for her, I was able to buy cigarettes online, but then they passed new legislation, and Pick and Pay could no longer supply cigarettes. Yeah.
Having put yourself out in the public domain like this, do you feel vulnerable or do you feel a sense of relief? Do you feel exposed?
I mean, I think that just before the book came out, when we actually had copies of the book, then I felt vulnerable and exposed. But somehow I've had such amazing responses from people that I feel like it's been a good thing for both me and the people who've read it, who have responded, and it's helped them to reflect on things about their own parents and their own selves. So, yeah, it feels, it's been nourishing in a way for me, publishing the book, having the book published.
When you were blogging, they were in the form of journal entries, were they not? Similar to the book.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically exactly the same as the book, although some of them have been deleted and they've been edited, so, there was quite a lot of repetition in a sense as well. So some of that, to make it more reader friendly, because with a blog, if you're going to read a blog, you read, or when you come across it, you'll read what is there. But then if you like the blog, you would read whenever there was a new entry. So it wouldn't feel as repetitive as if you had all that in a book, because you might read the book in 2 or 3 sittings. It's quite a short book, so it's not going to, take up a huge amount of time. So it was tightened up.
But you get that sense of, a sense of repetition, but you also get it as a sense of feeding the madness. Buying the cigarettes. I've got to buy the cigarettes, the Coke, the Coke, the Coke. You get that sense of this is what has to happen and it's frenetic almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you choose to go with the diary format as opposed to just working it into a novel or a sort of fully worded memoir?
It would be, I don't think it would work as a novel. I don't know, but I mean, I thought this was the right format for it. And I think that as the reader, you can put together your own version of the story. In a sense, the story emerges from the pieces of what is there. So I think it does, in a sense, have a novelistic quality, that there are these 2 characters, Colleen and Sally, and some other characters. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this format worked well.
Yeah, it does. It works very well. We have a question here. Is the book only about a period after your mom was diagnosed with dementia? Just hang on one second. Yes, sorry, my mother was making a noise. Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Let me start again. Is the book only about the period after your mom was diagnosed with dementia, or is it also about the earlier relationship and what you came to understand about yourself?
I mean, I think it is both of those things. It kind of, in a sense, I'm writing in the present of whatever day that was that I was writing, but things occurred to me that I reflected back on. So yeah, I think it does, it does do both of those things. And also, I mean, I think in reading the whole thing, I mean, I've read it a few times since it's been published because of feeling anxious myself about being asked about it. So I wanted to be sure what I'd said. And I think there is a sense of my own healing in caring for my mother. I mean, I got divorced in this period as well, and it was easier for me to care for her once I was divorced because my energy wasn't as fragmented and eroded. It was like a whole difficult part of my life was sort of taken out.
It's quite weird that you say you were divorced, because when I read that one comment in your book, when your daughter was going to bed, it was 7 o'clock, and there were this whole thing in this experimental bedtime, and your husband kind of like wasn't interested, and I thought to myself, I wonder if they're still married. And then later on in the book, there was this divorce, because you got a sense then already that there was a sense, a detachment from, he wasn't what you needed at that point in time, and a caring, loving, supportive husband in that sense of the word.
Yeah. I mean, look, the book isn't really about my marriage and divorce, although I mention it because it happened in that period. So I feel like right now I don't really want to talk too much about my actual marriage and divorce, but yeah, it obviously didn't work, and it's been much easier for me to not be married.
It's been much easier for me not to be married as well. I've never tried. I really felt for you when you were talking about your comfort jersey. I have an old Mickey Mouse sweatshirt that I've had since I was about 15, which my dad brought me back from America. And it is now tattered. I mean, it's beyond disgusting. Okay, I use it to paint in and do crafts and stuff like that. Sometimes I wear it out of the house. But literally the sleeves, the cuffs, you put your hand in front of the sleeve because there is no cuff anymore. And it's absolutely, and I decided a couple of weeks ago, it needs to be retired, but I can't face the thought of actually giving it away. So I'm going to create a piece of art out of it and actually frame it. Just like a memory, almost like a memory board, because this shirt has been around for so long. I mean, it's been around for 35 years as part of my life. I really felt for you when you said you were going to now retire this jersey and give it away. So my heart went right out to you, because I relate to clothing like that.
I mean, that thing wouldn't have, been good as a piece of art, because it was all a kind of like a sort of creamy, sandy color. So, I mean, it wasn't interesting looking,
How has your relationship with your mom impacted on your relationship with your daughter? I mean, have you made a conscious effort to do things differently?
So I mean, part of my whole process of being in psychotherapy has been to, I mean, it wasn't about being a better mom, it was just about building a life that made sense and that wasn't destructive and full of depression. But then after I think I mentioned in the book, what has happened for me is that as I've raised her, sometimes something will happen and I'll have this alternative tape or, sort of default tape in my head of like what I think I could do or say, and it would be like violent and unpleasant, But I think because I've done so much work over so many years, I'll talk to that voice and say, no, like that is not how you're going to speak to your child. I mean, why would you? That's so destructive and horrible. Imagine how it will make her feel, So therapy has given me the space to consider things before I do them. But I mean, I know that I've still done, that there's still a lot of room that I could have been a better mother, And I mean, the teenage years have been very challenging for me, just in the sense that she's found being a teenager hard, and there've been a lot of painful things that she's had to deal with herself, including the divorce and our difficult marriage. When we were still married, we fought a lot. So she grew up with that. I mean, it's hard to witness a child suffering, I think. And, you don't know what to do. You just try to do your best and to be there. But, I mean, very often I think, like, how am I supposed to do this? Like, I don't know what the right thing is. Got no idea.
There's no handbook for raising children, is there?
Well, also because the thing is, each child is different, I don't think that if there was a handbook, I mean, there are lots of handbooks, actually. there's
Yeah,
shelves
Dr.
and
Spock.
shelves at exclusive books. And and the theory about what works, what you should be doing, like how to raise girls, and I don't know. So, but the thing is, each child is different. So there isn't a template that will work for every single child. I don't think.
And I think each generation is different, with different technologies and different pressures and different things going on in the world around them, then you kind of have to adapt to that as well and take it into account. So I think books aren't really going to help in a practical sense. Not that I have children to speak of, but I do have a mother. So it's like having an adult child. Hey, mother. Colleen, I'd like to focus a little bit on the artwork on the cover of this book.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love the fact that it's not clear. It's not crystal clear paintings. It's almost like impressionist in the way it's done. Was that deliberate, or was that your artist's interpretation of your work?
Well, when we started working on the cover, we Carla Kreuzer, who did the cover, just so that we could work out what it should look like, because Robert Berold, the publisher, and involved me quite a lot in working on the cover with the artist, briefing her in a sense and saying, guess this, not that. So she first of all used computer generated or images that she sourced from the internet, and then she painted over that. I think she partly blurred the labels as a way of avoiding any issues that might arise.
Copyright laws.
I don't know. So, but I think that the images as they stand, I like the shadows, and in a sense that speaks to something about the book, and it feels a bit like memory or dream, to me, the way the images are. Yeah,
and I love it, and it's fully representative of the things that were very important aspects of the book. The toilet paper, the Rothmans, the Coca-Cola, and the shadow that they brought to your life. It's a perfect cover for your book, I have to say. And I don't really notice stuff like that, to be quite honest. It's not my. I don't normally notice books covers, but I thought that was a particularly well done cover. Colleen, would you take a moment and just read to us a little bit from the book? I want people to understand that this book is not as depressing as the conversation might make it out.
Okay. Okay, so this was very early on. It's peculiar managing someone else's life, having that kind of responsibility, but at the same time, how mundane much of it is. Sometimes she phones me. When are you going to visit me again? I'm not sure. Well, I need toilet paper. Okay, well, ask Chantal and I will send some with your order on Friday. She uses at least one roll of double-ply toilet paper a day. Is that a lot? It seems to be. And always she runs out. However much I buy for her, it is never quite enough. The last time I shopped, Chantal asked me to buy Sunlight dishwashing liquid for her. Her carer washes her Coke glasses and her ashtray. When I visited 2 Sundays ago, Chantal told me that my mother had poured the whole bottle of Sunlight down the drain. When I asked Sally why she had done this, she said, "What do I need this crap for?" My thoughts exactly, Mum. Okay, and then there's the next one is called Opting Out. I'm seeing my mother's psychiatrist next Wednesday afternoon. It will take me half an hour to drive there up Coburg Road into Milnerton, half an hour to see him, and then half an hour to get home. Why does she see a psychiatrist? Not easy to answer simply. She has been diagnosed as bipolar. She has also suffered from depression, which goes with the bipolar. She attempted suicide several times in her life, many times, and she never took her meds in any kind of systematic fashion. And now, for the first time in her life, her meds are administered to her. Even so, she has been known to hide them, throw them away, flush them down the toilet. Now the carers crush them into her yogurt to ensure she takes them. When she first saw the apartment she would be moving into, she burst into tears. After a few minutes, she went to the windows and looked down and said, "Oh, well, I guess I could jump out of the window if I really hated here." She sobbed all the way home. I felt terrible, guilty, sad, but I was firm with her. If you're going to say things like that, we will have to find a different kind of place for you to live. One with barred windows, I thought to myself. But now she lives there in the luxury retirement resort. It's too far away, she says. Too far away from where? Fishhook, probably, where she used to live. But it is also as good as it gets for someone who gave up a long time ago, perhaps for reasons beyond her control, and who can't or won't manage her own life. Yeah, I think I'll stop there on that one. Must I read more? Do you want to say something?
No, read another one. I'm quite enjoying this.
Okay.
It's lovely to hear a book come out of an author's mouth, because you put your own inflections into it, and you kind of get it's like hearing the book in your head almost.
Okay, then this one's called Does She Wash Her Hair with Conditioner? The bill came for her levy. I usually wait a couple of days before paying. Partly I'm being passive aggressive, partly procrastinating. Maybe the two are the same thing. Leaping at doing something for my mother is not something that happens spontaneously. I have to drag myself by the hand, cajoling, wheedling, and make myself do the things I need to do, have to do, must do, have agreed to do, have taken it upon myself to do. She had 2 haircuts last month, 2 trips to the hairdresser. Since she has been living at the luxury retirement resort, her hair always looks straggly and greasy. At first I wondered if she was washing it with conditioner. I don't buy her conditioner anymore, so it can't be that. Her hair is now completely grey and never looks groomed or well cut. It could be that the hairdresser at the LRR is hopeless. My mother looks like a burgie when I pick her up to take her out. She wears baggy, well-worn jeans with an elasticized waist, beach shoes with Velcroed straps across her feet. Her toenails are always too long. She's reluctant to allow anyone to touch her feet. It makes her giggle and she is squeamish about it. Her t-shirt or blouse is usually crumpled, slightly stained. I take her shopping for new clothes every 6 months or so for a few new items, but she either doesn't wear them or quickly manages to make them look crumpled and stained too. She cuts the sleeves off her pajamas with a pair of nail scissors. An old friend of hers visited her recently, and afterwards she phoned me. "Cole, you must do something about your mother." She tried tactfully to tell me all the things I know already. What can I say?
Colleen, I've forgotten what I was going to say now that we're talking about what can I say. Where were your siblings in all this?
Okay, so I've got 3 siblings who are part of this marriage. My birth father and my mother got divorced when I was 3. So I've got half siblings in the UK, but they don't feel quite the same as the ones I grew up with. And I'm the oldest. So initially Sean, my brother, who's second oldest, my mother lived with him for some time, 2 years, with carers. But that didn't work out too well because the carers weren't great. The one was, as I say in the book, the one was a bully and the other was manipulative and was trying to sort of extract money from my mother in various ways. So, yeah. And I mean, also, there were always things going wrong, so it felt like putting her in a place where that was dedicated to caring for people would be better. And my sister, the youngest, she was living in America by then. She lived in Chicago and now in Florida. So my younger brother, Michael, helped me with practical things like when my mom needed a new TV or a new DSTV or something, various things like that. And he also always had her over the Christmas period because that was when I could take a break. But, the thing is, it's actually easier for one person to take responsibility because then you don't have to be doing things by committee. where, you know, one person thinks that this is a better idea and another person thinks that's a better idea. And also, you know, the person who's taking responsibility knows that the things that need to be done are done, you know. So, you know, I did sometimes feel that I was, you know, left to take care of my mother, but I also knew that I'd chosen it. So, yeah.
Do you really felt that you'd chosen it?
Sorry?
You really felt that you'd chosen it? Or just been given it to you and you're just making the best of, you know, doing the best that you can?
Well, I mean, you know, one has to, I don't know, I just felt like it was something that I had to do, you know, but in the sense of had to and needed to do. You know, she couldn't be left to her own devices. She needed someone to care for her. I mean, a lot of the day-to-day practical stuff was taken care of by the place that she lived, you know, but sort of overseeing her life and making sure she got the things she needed, and if there were problems, somebody needed to be consulted, etc. I mean, I think it was more onerous for me just because of my own resistance, because of my history with my mother. I mean, in a sense, like if I'd, you know, when she needed things, if I just sat down and ordered them from Pick and Pay, you know, but it would take me a few days to like wrestle with myself and force myself to sit down and do the shopping. It wasn't like I just, you know, yeah.
Are you, I'm going to be very personal here. Are you uncomfortable talking about this? How
No.
uncomfortable is it? On a
No,
scale of 1 to 10?
Look, I'm trying to be balanced and reasonable. I you know, I mean, there were times, like I said, that I felt, but, you know, I mean, it did feel like a burden. And sorry, and then Sean also moved to Scotland. So, you know, it was just Michael and I in Cape Town. He lives in Komiki, which is quite far from where, you know, maybe if I'd found a place for my mother that was between the two of us, he would have been able to be more involved.
But then boys don't generally, I mean, girls generally look after their parents more than boys do. It's not such a, unless he's got a nice wife who thinks her mother-in-law was absolutely fantastic and would like to go the extra mile for her.
Well, I don't think his wife thought that, but I think that she, I mean, she's quite a family-oriented person, and they did sometimes go and have lunch with my mother or take her out, and they always had her, you know, for Christmas. And that was quite a thing to go and fetch her and bring her to their place and have her stay for a few days, you know.
In your mom's descent into dementia, did she recognize you until her death, or did you become a stranger?
Oh yeah, no, she did. I mean, like I said, it wasn't a sort of deep dementia. I mean, it was a mild dementia that she had, actually. And I mean, it was sort of worse in the beginning, strangely. You know, as I said, she somehow got better with regards to the dementia from living where she lived. No, so she always recognized me.
I think that is in part because she had to actually start leaving her room to go and smoke downstairs. I mean, once she had a fire in her room at one point, and then they banned smoking altogether. So she actually had to get up, leave the room, go and smoke, and interact with other people. Do you think that helped in her sort of recapturing a bit of herself?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, she'd become very inward and sunken into a lazy boy chair, as it were. You know, just sitting there smoking and watching TV and drinking Coke. And she'd always have like several bottles of Coke around her feet of different levels of, you know, emptiness or fullness. But yeah, once she had to go and smoke downstairs, she definitely came out of her shell, you know.
And she got exercise walking up and down the passage.
Yeah, but in the last couple of years, she did actually start smoking back in her room again, you know, back in her apartment. And, you know, the centre would phone me and ask me to do something about it. But, you know.
What can you do?
But, I
It's
mean, I
not like
think
you live
they also just checked up on her a lot. And I mean, after she died, when I was packing up her apartment with my siblings, they were all here because the ones that don't live here came for the funeral. We found sort of ashtrays and containers of stompies in all kinds of places.
Shamini says, I think it's very brave to be honest about this, as we're all getting to that age with our parents where they need our help and care, and it's difficult. Absolutely, Shamini. It's very difficult. Look at this one over here. At the end of the thing, I'll tell her to go back in her box. Isn't that what I did? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I know my place.
Is my lunch ready?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Just checking. Are there any questions for Colleen?
Yeah.
People, have you got a question?
Yeah.
What is it?
When this happened with your mom, did you take her to a specialist who deals with either Alzheimer's or dementia? Because I took my husband when I noticed things were not quite right. I wasn't married to him yet, and it cost me over 3,000 Rand up front to be told, don't marry him because it's going to be very difficult. That was the advice that I got. And I said to him, I love him. He wouldn't abandon me. So there's no way I'm going to walk away from him.
Right.
The second specialist, another 3,500 Rand up front, all he said to Mandi and I and Jerry, he has severe dementia, but he still has social manners. But neither of these specialists bothered to tell me. I had to do my own research, the various stages that somebody with dementia goes through. Because at the beginning, Jerry kept at night, which was the worst. He wants to go home. He wants to go home. And I'm trying to pacify him, not understanding his reasoning. And now I feel he's slipping away from me because the carer showed him a picture of himself and me, and he pointed, he recognized himself, and he thought I was his mother.
You pretty much
so my mother wasn't as,
It's all very sad.
Yeah, no, it does.
And he's got sugar diabetes, so that goes up and down like a yo-yo, and our home is completely devoid of anything sweet apart from my daughter.
Yes, and I'm so sweet. Yes, I'm so sweet. I have a very, very important question for you, Colleen, and you mentioned it in the book very briefly. When are you going to start playing wordlets with me again?
I decided, that I was spending too much time playing games. So I don't know.
Part of my nightly ritual. When I go to bed at night, I just play one round of whichever games are lined up, and that's it. I don't go on during the day and play it. I just play one shot for about 40 minutes at night, and that's it, finished. Melanie says, your mother was very lucky to have you as her daughter. What you did was extremely courageous. Eleanor says, thank you so much for sharing, Colleen. It's really helpful to hear such an honest reflection of this difficult time and relationship. Wish you all the best with your journey going forward, as do we all.
Thanks.
Colleen, are you going to write another book about Mojaji and publishing?
Yeah, I think I might write another book. I mean, I will, this last period has been, with COVID and the quarantine, difficult for everyone. And a small publishing company, it's been very difficult. So this last while has been about trying to develop some alternative streams of income. But my daughter's, as I say, is a matric, and so there's just not so long of having to support her and pay for school fees and all of that. So I won't be as pressurized, but for now I still am quite pressurized. So yeah.
Well, if she's anything like my brother, she'll be at home till she was 26.
Yeah, I think she understands that, she needs to
Fly.
making her own way, as it were. That, yeah.
As one does
I mean,
in this world.
not straight away, but she wants to be a patisserie chef, so she's going to go to a school in Stellenbosch next year. I mean, it was a surprise for me because I would, I mean, it's that thing where as a parent you have to see that your child is totally different to you, and isn't the same.
Well, if you need somebody to talk her out of going to chef school, let me know, because I'm quite happy to do that. It's not a job for a young person.
Did you go to chef school?
I didn't go to chef school, but I spent from 1993 till now as a caterer, and it's not a job for a young person. You watch your friends going out and having a party while you're working. When they're at work, you have a day off. You don't have weekends, you don't have nights, it's not a job for I think it's a job for an older person, quite frankly, not a younger person. It takes away your youth, and then you have to deal with the public. Oh my God, the public. So yes.
But I think every job has difficult things that you have to deal with. Publishing no less.
Yeah, publishing. Yeah, you just have to deal with highly strung authors all the time. Colleen, thank you very much. Where's your book available? Is it in stores? Is it online?
Yeah, it's available at. So I know for sure that it's at Love Books and at the Book Lounge and Cork Bay Books, and it's available from Loot. I mean, I know it's at other bookshops as well, and you can always order it. Any book that you want, you can order from your closest bookshop if they don't have it in stock. And it's also available internationally on the African Books Collective website, and also as Kindle. So,
before I let you go, why didn't you self-publish?
Look, I did think about it, but I asked Robert, who is an old friend of mine, to read it and, tell me what he thought. And so he read it and he really, loved it, and he edited it, initially not even with the sense of publishing it, but he sort of became more and more involved, and then he said he wanted to publish it. So, and I mean, I've loved having a publisher, because I did publish a couple of my other books, and I've got a separate imprint for sort of self-published books. So my collection of short stories is published, Looking for Trouble is published by Hands On Books, which is this other imprint. And but having a publisher is that you have someone else who's behind the book and is advocating for you and has taken it seriously and cares about it, So actually it's been wonderful to have a publisher, and I've experienced for the first time, in a sense, what I've given to many writers, and I've loved it.
Oh, well, we wish you everything the best with your book.
Thank you.
And we wait for the next one with eager anticipation. Kerry says, thank you for your vulnerability and openness on this sensitive topic. Good luck. And on that note, everybody else, we will see you at 1:00 when we do Art of an African Kitchen, all the way from Kenya. Go well, lovelies. Thank you, everyone. And have a nice, next hour. See you in an hour. Colleen, have a wonderful day. Join us in an hour if you've got nothing better to do.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.